The following story is actually written by me, but it is based off an actual story that happened. Just want to put that out there before we get into it. Sadly, almost everything you hear is pretty damn accurate. I was 28 at the time this story took place. I am the average adult. I work a lot throughout the week and look to unwind and maybe have some fun on the weekends. I had just finished an extremely long week and was looking to meet a lady friend to relax with and get to know. I have never been much of the social type of person, so meeting women always seemed like a tough thing for me. I finally decided to give online dating a try and hopped onto a popular dating site. After a quick search, I was paired up with a local lady. She was around my age and was drop-dead gorgeous, a petite blonde with a smile that makes your heart skip a beat. I decided I would reach out and see what she was looking for. She replied rather quickly, and before I knew it, she even asked if I had plans this upcoming Friday night. I didn't, so I told her that. She then invites me to come over to her place and watch a movie. I did notice it was rather forward of her, but like many men, I was thinking with the wrong head and agreed that we should meet up. We chatted for a while longer before she said she had some errands to run and would see me this weekend. She messages me the directions to get to her place and the time I should arrive. When I got her directions, there was one thing that stood out to me. She mentioned that she is worried about meeting people online and has an odd precaution that she likes to take. She asked me to park in the alley and enter through her garage door and go out the other garage door that leads to her backyard, then from there knock on the back door. She said that me doing that gave her time to see me in person and make a quick decision as to if I was a creep or not. It seemed really strange to me that she didn't just want to meet up in a public place for our first meetup, but at the same time I kind of understood her reasoning if we were meant to have a fun night. I logged off the site and went about my work week as normal, anxiously awaiting our date Friday evening. Come Friday morning, I checked on the website to see if she sent any updates to our date or canceled it altogether. I saw no messages and logged off once again and went to work for the day. After work, I went home and got ready for our upcoming date. I make it to her place and park in the alley behind her garage. I noticed one of the garage doors that vehicles enter was slightly up. It was maybe a quarter of the way up. I got a really weird feeling for some reason and felt a little stupid doing what I was doing. I had never met anyone from any dating site in person. I chalked up my out-of-control nerves to just being out of my comfort zone and shook off the doubts that I had. I got out of my car and had to crouch to enter her garage. Once I stood back up, the first thing I noticed was that it was extremely dark inside there. I couldn't see any source of light, so I paused for a moment to let my eyes adjust before moving through the garage to the other door. Out of nowhere, I hear a loud and fast shuffle behind me. I try to flip around, but before I can even fully turn, I feel someone's arm wrap around my throat. I can't describe the fear I felt in that moment. It really is a feeling that is beyond words. Everything happened so fast, but at the same time it felt like they were happening in slow motion. I struggled with all the strength that I have trying to loosen the grip around my neck. I finally squirm out of their grip and lose my balance, falling backwards onto the concrete floor. It was then that I got the first look at the person who I thought was a lady. If their strength wasn't a dead giveaway that I was dealing with a man, then I could easily tell by the figure I saw standing in front of me. This guy was huge. I don't know if I felt that way because I was laying on the ground or due to the amount of fear I was in, but they towered over me. The man in front of me was wearing a hockey mask painted in a weird gold and black design. The mask alone was one that would strike fear into most people, but that only came second to the look in his eyes. They were the most evil things I had ever seen. It was as if you could see the crazy in this person. I still have the image of that mask and those eyes burned into my mind to this day. They haunt my nightmares on a regular basis, and I don't know if I will ever get that look out of my mind. The next thing I know, I see him pull out a baton. I am still struggling to get to my feet at the time he pokes me with the baton. I hear a loud crack and all my muscles start to spasm. That is when I realize he didn't have a baton. He had an electric prod. He keeps poking me all over my torso with this thing, and the pain is almost unbearable. In my mind, I am trying so hard to get up, but my body just isn't responding. I finally do the only thing I can think and grab the prod with my hands and try to push it from my body. It still keeps zapping me and it feels like my hands are stuck to the prod now. With one hard pull, he frees the prod from my hands and once again starts zapping my body. Just when I think he isn't going to stop, he does. He then reaches behind his back and pulls out a pistol. He points it in my face and says that if I move, I'm dead. I completely freeze like a deer in headlights. He moves over to a workbench. He comes back with a roll of duct tape and rips a piece off in front of my face. He then places the tape over my eyes. In an instant, almost every horror movie I'd ever seen flashed before my eyes. I knew that if I didn't act quickly, I was going to be murdered by this person. I started thinking of my friends and family, and how they would never know what happened to me. It was then that I decided that I had to do something before I was completely screwed. As fast as I could, I tore the duct tape off my eyes, doing my best to ignore the pain. I didn't even attempt to get up. I just started rolling as fast as I could towards the still cracked garage door. I don't know how, but I actually made it outside before he caught up to me. I heard him moving quickly towards me, and I tried to stand up, but my legs immediately gave out, and I was once again on the ground. No matter how much I tried, my legs just wouldn't work. They were still like jello from all the electricity that had surged through my body, so I started trying to crawl away as fast as I could. I heard his footsteps right behind me, and then his iron grip around my ankle and the other on my pants. He started dragging me back towards the garage as I'm kicking and screaming, trying to draw attention. I feel myself moving backwards as I'm crawling at the gravel in a pitiful attempt to overpower him. I then realize that if he gets me back in there, I will not have a chance to escape again. With everything in me that I can muster, I start kicking as hard as I can. I feel his grip slip and I hear him hit the ground. I once again try to get up to run. This time my legs hold up just long enough to take a few steps, and I make it around the corner of the yard's fence before I crumble onto the ground once more. I am just staring at the road that intersects with the alley and start to wonder if I will make it out of this when I see a couple out walking their small dog turn off the road and into the alley. They make it a step before they notice me on the ground. I start screaming to them that someone is after me and they are going to kill me. Just as I finish that sentence, the man hurries around the corner and sees the couple I'm screaming at. He quickly glances at me and then back at the couple before saying, "John, stop harassing the neighbors. He's just playing, guys. We've been drinking all day." He is still wearing his mask, and remarkably the couple just turns around and walks off. I was in complete shock. Panic once again sets in as I realize they aren't even going to try and help. I turn my head to face my attacker, and he looks at me one last time before hurrying back into his garage. I didn't even think twice. I start stumble running to my car, watching his garage opening, expecting him to come back at any second. By some miracle, he doesn't, but I do see his legs pacing back and forth in front of the opening. I jump into my car, start it, and fly out of there. My heart was racing for another hour after the incident. I was looking over my shoulder like a tweaker. My head finally clears, and then I start to think, should I report this? The obvious answer is yes. Who wouldn't? Well, I wouldn't. Well, I didn't. I didn't report it because as a full-grown man, I was embarrassed that I had fell for being catfished. I didn't report it because I was afraid my friends and family would know I used dating sites. I know it sounds beyond stupid, and trust me, I know it was, but I didn't report it because I was embarrassed. I just told my friends and family that I was mugged over the weekend, because I needed to talk about some of it at least. I did also return to the dating site and looked for the profile that I had been talking to. It had been deleted. My story ends there, for about a week. I'm at work one day and I take a break in the break room. I sit down at the table and I see something that sends a chill down my spine. On the table, on the front page of the newspaper, is a picture of the mask that still haunts me. Once the shock wears off, I pick up the paper and read what is written under the photo. My hands are shaking as I read that the police are looking to talk to anyone who recognizes this mask. I immediately go tell my boss that I need to go talk to the police, and walk out. I realize that I do need to go talk to them now. Whether embarrassed or not, I needed to let them know what had happened. I went into the station and said to the officer on duty, "I know that mask that was in the paper. I was attacked by the person wearing it and I barely got away." The officer looked stunned and I was immediately taken in the back for questioning. I was back there for so long. They wanted every single detail. At one point, I asked them how they found the mask. They told me that a man had went missing, and the directions to where the guy was supposed to meet his date were forwarded to the police by his friend. They made contact with the resident, and he claimed to have never seen the man. He agreed to let the police have a quick look around. After looking in the garage, they came across the mask. At that point, the guy said that he was a director filming a horror movie, and that everything they were looking at was part of his set. The guy even went so far as to show the police the script, and it seemed a little weird to most of them. Like oddly accurate weird. Every detail was so detailed that it seemed to surpass any modern movie. There was even a whole segment of the script that was dedicated to the person who got away. Me. My mouth dropped open and my heart started racing all over again. I started getting lightheaded, and I'm pretty sure the officers could see that. They asked me to take a seat as I had been standing most of the time, trying to show them how things had played out. They once again asked me to go over the details of my story, for probably the third or fourth time. They said that everything I described was detailed exactly the same way it was in the script. They believed that if the part about me was that accurate, then the part about the murder is probably just as accurate. My mind was in a swirl, and maybe 12 hours after I had walked in, the officers told me that I could go, and that they would be in contact. I voiced my concern and fear about the guy, but the police assured me that he had no idea where I was located, and they would have an officer outside of my property on the off chance the guy did find out. They said that if I did have an issue to turn the porch light off. Fortunately, I kept it on the entire time I was home that night, even though I was still peeking through the window like a madman. The next day I answered a knock at the door. It was the officers I had spoken to the day prior. They informed me that they had made an arrest, and that the guy was being charged with murder. They again asked me to come down to the station to answer more questions. I called my boss and told him again I needed to talk to the police and wouldn't be able to make it in. I don't think he was happy, but he didn't have a choice. The questioning started up again, and I was asked if I would go to the trial and be on the stand. I hesitated for a moment before finally agreeing. It took quite a while before the trial started. The person who attacked me didn't look like I expected. He looked normal, like someone you would see just out and about every day. Even his eyes looked different, much less crazy, but still unnerving. He pled not guilty. It wasn't until after the trial that I heard about all the graphic details and how lucky I truly was, and how me not reporting the incident in the first place cost another man his life. The entire script of his movie was heavily detailed on the torture, murder, and disposal of that poor man. The guy did the exact same thing as me. He went on the same dating website and came across a lady he was going to meet. Only it wasn't a lady. It was a monster. This monster had even handed out flyers to all of his neighbors, letting them know he was producing a horror movie, and they would hear a lot of screaming and other sounds, but to not worry about it. They heard all the screams, but not a single one called the authorities. They really thought he was filming a movie. For days, he tortured the man in his garage right under his neighbors' noses. When he was done torturing the man, he tried to burn his body in a barrel. When that didn't work out like he thought, he dismembered what was left of the poor man's charred remains before bringing him to a sewer and dropping what was left of his body into the dark depths. After I had been questioned by the police, they got a warrant and searched his property thoroughly. They found the residue of blood when using luminol. Upon testing, DNA confirmed it was a match to the person missing. They also found every device used to torture the man, all still soaked in his blood. The guy claimed it was all fake blood and movie props, but the cops didn't buy it and arrested him. They even found out that the monster of a man had sold the missing guy's car for $40. Seriously, $40. The evidence was overwhelming. They never did find the remains of the missing man, but were still able to gain a conviction due to all the overwhelming proof. I talked to the missing man's family and friends and tried to tell them how sorry I was for not reporting my attack. They didn't blame me, but I did. Had I not been so embarrassed, I would have alerted the authorities, which would have most likely gotten this monster off the streets, even if only for a while. Because I didn't, less than 2 weeks later, a different man lost his life. The guilt I feel haunts me to this day, even more than the mask in those crazy eyes. The only thing I would like to say to everyone listening to this is, don't be embarrassed to report something to the proper authorities. You never know when it can stop something even worse from happening to the next unlucky person. Life is a precious thing, and some people are evil and just want to steal it from you. If you enjoyed this video, you have some serious mental health issues and I highly recommend you go see a psychiatrist. And if you would like to help support the channel, make sure you check out the sponsor button down by the subscribe button. It will give you a cool channel badge, which you'll probably see in some of the comments, as well as early access to all of my content. If you have a story that you would like to submit, make sure you email it to yourmaker6260@gmail.com. So as I said before the story started, I actually wrote this, but this actually did happen. Make sure you're careful out there in the world. There are some sick people out there. If something happens to you that should be reported, report it. Odds are that same thing will happen again by that person. If they get away with it, they're going to end up getting better at it, and they most likely will try it again. I appreciate everyone checking out this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true. Bad bye.